From your local election headquarters, here's Fred Childers with This Week in Louisiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Governor Jeff Landry is calling back legislators to the Capitol to pass tax reform measures. He says it's needed now to prevent a big gap in the budget next year. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht brings us details.
Lawmakers are being called back to the Capitol to pass a tax plan that Governor Jeff Landry believes will not only plug the estimated $500 million budget hole next year, but also will advance Louisiana in the rankings for tax relief.
We're not going to repair the vehicle while we're driving it. We have an opportunity to get ahead of this.
Part of the plan includes keeping the temporary 0.45 cent sales tax that was set to roll off in 2025. They also would expand what goods and services the sales tax applies to focus on what they say are luxury things.
There's the digital goods and services. These are the things that are online now that were previously you go to Blockbuster, you go to Office Depot and buy something. Now we're looking at taxing that when you do those transactions online. So that's part of it. There's a set of services that we'd also like to tax. Lobbying is one of those. A few other things. There's landscaping, dog grooming.
Landry is making the push to phase out the income tax. This change would include a 3% flat rate and a standard $12,500 deduction for low and middle class people.
I'm not getting engaged in class warfare here, okay? That's what the critics love to do. They love to divide our people. This plan has something for every class.
His plan also aims to repeal the corporation franchise tax. Lawmakers will debate the changes in a session in November, and voters will get the last say on if the changes go through in the March election. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
A new law went into effect this week in Louisiana that categorizes 2 abortion pills as controlled substances. Anyone found to be in possession of mifepristone or misoprostol without a prescription can face up to 5 years in prison. Earlier this year, hundreds of doctors asked state lawmakers not to pass the measure. They fear it will create access issues for women who use the drugs for different health reasons. Some hospitals in New Orleans are trying to challenge the law and are taking the pills out of their treatment for various conditions. Attorney General Liz Morrell hit back on some reports of women being refused care by stating the law is clear in what it allows. Governor Landry also signed an executive order directing the Board of Regents to make policies to ensure that freedom of speech is protected. The governor, alongside some students and legislators, claim that some ideological viewpoints are not welcomed on college campuses. He points to talks for some conservative speakers ultimately being canceled by some schools, as well as major protests taking place there.
For many years, for decades, have been an institution under which people had the ability to enjoy dialogue and civil discussions that has seemed to change, where only one set of ideology seems to be able to be the predominant voice, while other voices have seemed to be shamed.
There is already a similar policy in place for the board to send a report to these issues to the governor. LSU released a statement after his speech saying they welcomed all voices to be heard on campus. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell made a public appearance to present her annual budget as she faces some legal troubles. Mallory Smith explains the implications and what the mayor had to say.
Mayor LaToya Cantrell seemingly in high spirits as she stood before City Council outlining her administration's budget presentation for 2025. It comes just days after former city building inspector Randy Farrell was indicted on multiple federal charges, possibly tying several city officials, including Cantrell, to the crimes. During the meeting, she acknowledged the accusations.
How I came in seems to be how I'm going out. Accusation after accusation after accusation, but also a track record of delivering results.
In the indictment, Farrell's accused of supplying Saints football tickets, an iPhone, and a steak dinner to public official 1, who sources say is Mayor Cantrell, in exchange for the firing of an employee in the permits department. That employee may have uncovered a scheme Farrell orchestrated that resulted in him signing off on work that was done by unqualified contractors. Chief Administrative Officer Gilbert Montano was also referenced as a recipient of football tickets. Before and during the special council meeting, Cantrell dodged questions from the media and instead focused on the future of the city for 2025.
We will continue to focus on overall quality of life, no doubt about it. Meeting our people where they are, making sure that we address root causes. That's why our crime is down and leading in the United States of America.
It was important for us to be able to hear what the mayor wants to see as her vision for the city, especially during this her last year in terms of the budget that she would have any influence over.
Dock workers are back on the job after reaching a tentative deal on wages. This came after days of longshoremen striking for better pay, leading to a flurry of panic buying and concerns for farmers. There's still plenty to be ironed out in the contract, but they extended talks until mid-January. The International Longshoremen's Association and the U.S. Maritime Alliance will get back to the bargaining table soon. The strike affected 14 ports across the country, including here in Louisiana. A major milestone was reached for Livingston Parish as officials break ground on the new Livingston Executive Airport. Local leaders and Republican Senator Bill Cassidy coming together for the groundbreaking. The airport will be south of I-12 near the Satsuma exit. Officials are optimistic it will boost economic growth and attract new industries to the area.
This facility will not just sit here vacant. It will draw in business, it will draw in commerce, it will draw in greater opportunity for our parish.
Senator Bill Cassidy says this expansion could turn Livingston Parish into a new business hub. Construction on the runway is set to begin by early 2025. A federal court in New Orleans will hear an environmental racism case regarding Cancer Alley. The lawsuit is against the state of Louisiana and St. James Parish government. It's seeking a moratorium on any more petrochemical facilities in majority black districts of the parish. People who live there accuse the parish council of discriminating against them by allowing new companies to come in and ignoring their health concerns. The case will begin Monday. FEMA assistance is available to renters, including students, as well as homeowners with uninsured losses from Hurricane Francine. FEMA may be able to help with serious needs like displacement, temporary housing, basic home repairs, and personal property loss. Residents in Ascension and Assumption parishes may apply by going online to disasterassistance.gov or by downloading the FEMA app or calling the FEMA helpline using the number on your screen between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. Coming up, you'll hear from candidates vying for a seat on the Public Service Commission and some candidates running for Baton Rouge mayor. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. The Public Service Commission regulates the utility companies that determine your electricity and water bills, among many other things. An open seat could determine which political side the board leans to. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht caught up with the 3 candidates to hear their stances on the issues.
With an open seat on the 5-person commission, whose districts cover more people than the congressional seats, there is a lot riding on who wins this race. The lone Democrat and political newcomer Nick Laborde is up against former State Senator Julie Quinn and current State Senator John Paul Couson. On expanding green energy resources, they're all for it, but Quinn and Couson have some reservations.
While we want to invite those renewable sources, they're going to be lower probably than 10% of the overall power matrix, but there's also the economic issues of losing some of the farmland.
We have a goal of a certain percentage for our utility companies to be to generate electricity from renewables by 2028. That is putting a tremendous burden on these utility companies, and it's unattainable.
As utility companies have to harden their grids against stronger storms, it will be the task of the PSC to ensure that consumers' fees don't skyrocket.
I think the direction of this commission is going to be decided by who wins this seat, and we can hold those companies accountable by making them spend on these things. Yes, it is very expensive to bury power lines, but the alternative is everything just goes down quicker in these worsening storms.
Outside of utilities, Laborde says that he wants to eliminate the cost of prison phone calls. Quinn wants to focus on clean water regulation, and Couson has his eye on preserving natural gas production. Election Day is November 5th. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
And 2 candidates running for East Baton Rouge Parish Mayor-President sat down to discuss plans they have in place if elected. Deshaun Johnson brings us a look into their differences.
2 of the top contenders for mayor-president of Baton Rouge revealed their plans on how the city can grow and continue to be successful. At the start of the discussion, Mayor-President Sharon Weston Broom says they've been working with providing major upgrades.
We have seen our codes worked on, and our codes have certainly elevated our sustainability and mitigated our risk.
Residents across the parish have expressed concern on the cost of living and affording housing in the area. Democratic candidate Ted James says his plans shows the importance of building better homes and getting rid of blighted properties.
I want to get away from just multi-complexes to more single-family living. We do that by addressing our blight problem here in East Baton Rouge Parish. We, the city parish, owns too many structures that are blighted. We have
Community leaders and residents are still raising questions on the development of St. George, such as the incorporation date and what city services that will still be provided. Mayor Broom says she will continue taking steps forward to work with the new city's leaders to keep unity, access to resources, and equity across the city parish in St. George.
I want to make sure that the advent of this new city does not have a negative impact on all of the citizens of the city and parish, including the ones who are part of St. George.
Candidates both say the city of Baton Rouge faces many climate issues that affect the city. James says he would add more green spaces and better environments to help combat the increase of climate change.
the more trees we're planting, the more green spaces I'm working with Brett, the more gateway projects in addition to what we're doing with Move Baton Rouge. Those things are climate, right?
Both candidates shared their top priorities, if elected, in wanting to make the city better.
Keeping us safe, improving infrastructure, and having a unified East Baton Rouge Parish agenda at the legislature.
Public safety, continuing to work on our infrastructure, and elevating quality of life for every citizen.
In their closing remarks, they both shared their passions and visions on running for the top seat to help bring better for the city parish.
That was Deshaun Johnson reporting. The presidential election is quickly approaching with less than a month left. Here are a few important deadlines that voters need to be aware of. Check this out. The deadline to register in person, by mail, or at the OMV office is Monday, October 7th. The deadline to register through the Go Vote online registration system is Tuesday, October 15th. And the deadline is for citizens who have never registered to vote, as well as voters who would like to make changes to their registration. Citizens may check their registration or register to vote online at www.govote.com. Early voting for the November 5th election will take place October 18th through the 29th, including the Sundays from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Coming up, does FEMA have enough money to help rebuild after Hurricane Helene? We'll have the answer next.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. As the cost of damage from Hurricane Helene are projected in the tens of billions of dollars, Congress will return from their fall break to address more funding for FEMA. Capitol reporter Shannon Heck spoke with some of the federal delegation on what they want to see.
Passing these short funding measures, I think, is a very dangerous way to govern.
Just before Hurricane Helene made landfall, Congress passed a continuing resolution to keep the government funded until December. While the additional $10 billion for FEMA was nixed from the plan, it allowed the agency to draw down from future funds to respond to the disaster. It is part of a greater push to curb overspending by the federal government.
I will not get in the way of providing additional disaster spending that is needed, because we have been in that very situation before. We cannot take our eye off the ball of of long-term financial sustainability.
Earlier this year, FEMA was depleted enough that they had to put billions of dollars of recovery projects from past storms on hold to prioritize current disasters. Lawmakers do feel there is sufficient money to respond to Helene before Congress returns in November. With areas of the country flooding for the first time or worse than ever before, it shifts the conversation around the National Flood Insurance Program.
If only a very small percentage are paying for coverage premiums, but then we're going to provide recovery dollars to everyone. You know, at that point, are you incentivizing the right type of behavior, or are you not?
The Louisiana delegation has decried the risk rating 2.0 model, saying that the formula for pricing doesn't make sense and is causing people in the state to have insurance rates higher than their house notes. This has caused some to pack up and leave their hometowns or go without coverage, pray the next storm doesn't bring the water. The state has put billions of dollars, both state and federal, towards hazard mitigation efforts and want to see that reflected in better rates for homeowners.
If we built up our levees, if we fortified our roofs, if we've done things that will make our homes more not prone to flooding, then we should be recognized for that.
As for now, Congress is not set to return to debate this issue until after the election. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
$2 million coming to Louisiana to help small businesses in the food and beverage industry. Senator Bill Cassidy met with economic development workers to discuss a grant that will help launch the GNO Food and Beverage Incubator. It will provide small food and beverage businesses, including startups, with commercial kitchen space and technical assistance.
I am really excited because you've got a lot of entrepreneurs here that've got an idea in their brain. They've got a recipe they've developed. The question is, how do you take it to industrial scale? Now with the internet, you have the ability to sell out of Wagaman, out of Lafitte, out of any place in JP around the world. And that brings income, jobs.
The Restaurant Association says last year more than 11,000 restaurants in Louisiana provided more than 200,000 jobs. President Biden visited North and South Carolina this week to take a first-hand look at the devastation from Hurricane Helene. The two people hoping to replace President Biden are also focused on relief efforts. Washington correspondent Rashad Hudson reports.
Vice President Harris and former President Trump are also turning their attention to hurricane victims, and it comes as that desperate search for survivors continues.
Heart goes out to everyone.
President Joe Biden told hurricane victims impacted by Helene the federal government is here to help.
Our job is to help as many people as we can, as quickly as we can.
President Biden took an aerial tour of the devastation in the Carolinas Wednesday afternoon. He is also deploying up to 1,000 active duty troops to support search efforts.
They're going to speed up the delivery of life-saving supplies like food, water, and medicines to isolated communities.
Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are also turning their attention to helping the victims. In Augusta, Georgia Wednesday, Harris handed out meals to families.
One of the beauties about who we are as a country is people really rally together and show the best of who they are.
Trump was also in Georgia earlier this week to see the storm damage firsthand.
The people on the ground are doing the best they can in every challenging circumstances. We do need some help from the federal government.
And it's back to the campaign trail for the candidates. Today, Vice President Harris will be in Wisconsin and former President Trump will be in Michigan. Reporting in Washington, Rashad Hudson, back to you.
Up next, we'll have a look at the week ahead on your local election headquarters. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Looking ahead to the coming week, on Monday, the Baton Rouge Press Club will be hosting Metro Council member Rowdy Goddett to talk about proposed amendments. On Tuesday, the House Governmental Affairs Committee will hold an oversight meeting for the Board of Ethics. The meeting starts at 9:30. On Wednesday, the Ways and Means Committee will continue discussions around the governor's proposed tax plan. That meeting starts at 9:30. Thank you so much for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay informed, and I'll see you next Sunday right here in your local election headquarters.